On January 20, 2025, outgoing President Joe Biden took the significant step of issuing a series of pardons. This act of clemency, coming on the final day of his presidency, immediately sparked controversy and ignited a firestorm of debate across the nation. The pardons encompassed a range of individuals, some little known to the public, but several were figures who had been deeply embroiled in the political battles and controversies of recent years. This decision by President Biden was not merely about granting forgiveness, it was a move laden with political implications, reflecting the deep divisions within the country and raising questions about the future of American democracy. These pardons were not issued in a vacuum. They came at a time of heightened political tension, with the nation still grappling with the legacy of the January 6th Capitol attack and the ongoing investigations into potential election interference. The timing, just as a new administration prepared to take office, amplified the impact of Biden's decision, ensuring that it would be scrutinized not only for its legal ramifications, but also for its political message. The list of those pardoned included individuals linked to investigations into the January 6th Capitol attack, as well as figures who had faced scrutiny for their actions during the COVID-19 pandemic. The inclusion of these particular individuals immediately thrust the pardons into the center of the ongoing national conversation about accountability, justice, and the rule of law. Among those granted clemency were members of the House committee that investigated the January 6th attack, a decision that drew immediate condemnation from some quarters. These individuals had been instrumental in leading the inquiry into the events of that day, and their pardons were seen by some as an attempt to shield them from potential retaliation by the incoming administration. The pardons ignited a fierce debate about the balance of power, the reach of presidential authority, and the very nature of justice in a deeply divided nation. President Biden, in a statement released shortly after the pardons were announced, defended his actions, framing them as necessary to safeguard the integrity of American democracy. He argued that the individuals he had pardoned had been unfairly targeted and that the potential for politically motivated prosecutions posed a threat to the rule of law. Central to Biden's justification was the assertion that these pardons were not an admission of guilt on the part of those receiving them. Instead, he presented the pardons as a preemptive measure, a shield against the possibility of future prosecutions brought forth with the intent of exacting political revenge rather than pursuing justice. Biden's statement emphasized the unprecedented nature of the political climate, citing the events of January 6th and the subsequent attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election as evidence of a dangerous erosion of democratic norms. He argued that the pardons were a necessary step to protect individuals who had acted in good faith and to prevent the further deterioration of trust in American institutions. The president's words, however, did little to quell the immediate backlash from his political opponents. Critics argued that the pardons represented an abuse of power, an attempt to shield allies from accountability, and a dangerous precedent that could undermine the principle of equal justice under the law. Adding another layer of complexity to the situation was the recent indictment of former President Donald Trump on charges related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Trump, who had maintained a vocal presence in the years since leaving office, remained a powerful figure within the Republican Party, and his indictment further inflamed partisan tensions. The timing of the pardons, coming just days after Trump's indictment, fueled speculation that Biden's actions were directly linked to concerns about potential retribution from a future Trump administration. This possibility, while never explicitly confirmed by the White House, loomed large over the debate surrounding the pardons. Trump himself wasted no time in responding to the pardons, issuing a scathing statement in which he denounced Biden's actions as a corrupt attempt to obstruct justice. He accused Biden of using the power of the presidency to protect criminals and traitors who had colluded to undermine his administration. Trump's words, delivered with his signature blend of outrage and defiance, resonated with his base of supporters, many of whom viewed the pardons as further evidence of a deep state conspiracy working against them. This sentiment, fueled by a steady stream of rhetoric from conservative media outlets, threatened to further erode public trust in government and exacerbate the already deep partisan divisions within the country. Section 4. Notable figures granted clemency. The list of those pardoned by President Biden included a number of individuals who had been at the center of national controversies. their names and faces familiar to anyone who had followed the tumultuous events of recent years. These figures, each with their own unique stories and roles to play in the unfolding political drama, became symbols of the deep divisions that ran through American society. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, who had become a lightning rod for criticism and even threats during the COVID-19 pandemic, was among those granted a pardon. Fauci, who had served under 7 presidents and dedicated his life to public health, found himself thrust into the political crosshairs for his handling of the pandemic, his scientific expertise questioned by some, his motives impugned by others. General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who had drawn both praise and condemnation for his actions during the final days of the Trump administration, was another high-profile recipient of a pardon. Milley, who had reportedly expressed concerns about Trump's mental stability and taken steps to prevent any unauthorized military action, became a controversial figure, his loyalty questioned by some, his actions hailed as heroic by others. The pardons extended beyond these well-known figures to encompass a broader group of individuals, including members of the Capitol Police and the D.C. Metropolitan Police, who had defended the Capitol on January 6, as well as individuals who had pleaded guilty to charges related to their participation in the events of that day.